And hello, good people of the internet. It is I, Tommy Kelly. This is Adventures in Woo Woo. And this is the first time in a long while I've done one of these, which is if you're on YouTube is a vlog, but if you're on the podcast and the audio only version, I guess it's just a podcast. I kind of want to return to what I used to do back in the day, which is just talk about stuff. You know, the whole point of Adventures in Woo Woo from its inception as the blog was to be as honest as possible about the ups and downs of approaching life from, at that point, a chaos magic point of view, and, you know, tell people the good, the bad, the ugly about what was going on in my life when you do that. You know, the honesty part of it was very important to me, and it's the thing that's, I think, attracted or people like the most about it, that I've just been honest about things. And I think an awful lot when people say, oh, I'm just being honest about about these things, what they actually mean is, I'm just going to be a dick about this and give out about people, but just go, oh, I'm shooting from the hip. I'm just saying how it is. And the honesty that I tried to do with Adventures in Woo Woo is not that type of honesty. It's more, just be honest about how you feel and, you know, the good, the bad, the indifferent. And it's very easy to be kind of, not very easy. It's easier to talk, I suppose, about the negative type stuff than it is about the good stuff, because everyone kind of feels shitty sometimes. You know, not everyone gets to feel happy, or, you know, when something good happens to you, it kind of feels like you're boasting, I suppose, a bit. And so I have to make a concerted effort to balance and have both sides. But in this one, I want to talk about shitty stuff. Well, we'll see. Over the last while, as you may have noticed, I've not been doing any of these videos, vlogs, podcasts, audio stuff. And a lot of that was to do with over the last year and a bit, probably a year and a half, closer, well, a year and some months, has been an intense, hard spiritual landscape for me, where I learned an awful lot of things, and mostly in that kind of horrible learning thing of learning the darkness of things, or, you know, things letting you down, or seeing through the truth of things, or people letting you down, or, you know, putting people on pedestals and them not ultimately being deserving of it, or at least in your eyes. You know, all those kind of learning experiences where things fall apart, rather than those few and far between learning experiences where you learn some deep lesson that doesn't cause you any pain, and in fact, you know, makes things much better. Not one of those years. And I can actually pinpoint it to when exactly it kind of really happened. And it was when Russia invaded Ukraine. Something seemed to change dramatically for me. I don't want to kind of put this out as if it's some sort of, oh, and that something changed in the force. I feel a disturbance in the force. I mean, on a very personal level. And I see a lot of people, it affected people in the same way. And maybe there was some sort of disturbance in the force, and, you know, it marked some sort of change in, I don't know, something spiritually. But I'm only talking from a very personal level, that something changed in me, and things got very dark from that point of view. And even though there was a lot of kind of insights and stuff from it, it still kind of feels like there's this fog or blanket over things, or, you know, there's confusion, and there's a kind of a sense of an abandonment. By that I mean, and this is only something I've kind of really noticed over the last while, the last 2 weeks or so, is that the feeling I had spiritually, if you want, and it's so weird talking about these things, because even after years it still kind of feels a bit hokey, was that that the divine or whoever, that they were there with you, and that, you know, there was a kind of a sense of someone having your back or something like that. And that disappeared, like the safety net was taken out from under me, or I realized that there was never a safety net in the first place, and that had all been in my mind. I was very much on my own. And this was kind of backed up and bolstered, I suppose, a bit by the fact that I seemed to fall out of step with a lot of people, most people around me, who were very much going in a different direction, and all in the same direction, it turned out. And I felt, in a way, excluded from that, because I just wasn't into the same stuff, or into the same teachings. And not only was I not into it, I was kind of repulsed by it, and particularly as the year kind of went on, just seeing how that developed, and how it kind of furthered the gap between me and my contemporaries, my compatriots, in a way, because I really couldn't understand them. I really couldn't understand the attraction to the area. I'm trying to be very not specific here, because I don't want it to be about things. I don't want it to be about certain people or certain incidences or anything like that. I just want to talk about how I feel. And when you talk about details and specifics, it becomes about that. It becomes about the content. I don't want to talk about the content because it's irrelevant in many ways. It's more about my field. But anyway, I became very out of step with everyone around me. I felt in some way that the guidance, the divine guidance or the spirituality or the whatever, the woo had kind of also left me. Not in a complete way. Like it's not, like when I say abandon, that's kind of a big word. Like, I mean, when I look for it, it's still there, but it's like, you know, you're on your own for a lot of this. And certainly the invasion of Ukraine felt like, oh, holy shit, this all could actually fall apart, that you're not safe. It was a real eye-opener into the incredible kind of frailty of life and how easily everything you know can be taken away from you. And then what happened over the course of the year is that nearly everything was kind of taken away from me. Relationships became very strained. There was lots of things breaking. I've talked about this before, but I just to kind of put it all together. I lost all of my music. I lost a lot of art. There was lots of problems, all of these things. And kind of my good luck, I suppose, kind of went. It got really dark towards November and stuff where I had to pull out of doing the podcasts and vlogs and really pull out of different things and try and kind of sort all this out. But what ultimately happened is that I felt then there was kind of an illegitimacy that I felt to spirituality and to talking about it and being the guy on the internet talking about these things, because I felt like I didn't have any authority, or like, who am I to talk about this stuff given the fact that everything is falling apart, given that I don't have a fucking clue what's going on, or I don't, you know, the things that I used to feel like I could talk about Case Magic, or I could talk about this or that, whatever. And I kind of go, when you become kind of disillusioned with all of that, you kind of go, well, what am I going to talk about? You know, from what stance can I talk? From what authority? Or what, I don't know. What it felt like was that if I said something that was, you know, how I was feeling, but was different from the kind of collective mind that had formed around in my social interactions, that I felt like I was just arguing with people rather than just saying, well, this is my thoughts. And it was like, because it didn't fit into the paradigm, a certain paradigm that was and is very fashionable and cherished by a lot of people at the minute. That's very vague. And also, like, have you been on Twitter? Have you been on occult Twitter? I've tried my best to stay away from it, but it's like there's a certain contraction, yet again, that's involved in that. That there's a certain, you know, there's certain people you're allowed to follow, there's certain books you're allowed to read, there's certain thoughts you're allowed to have. And if you don't follow this kind of contracted narrative of who is allowed and who isn't, and God forbid you're following one person or whatever, it's just all this kind of underbelly of darkness and control and people, you know, gatekeepering and stuff. And it's all quite intense. And as you can tell by the way I'm talking, I haven't fully kind of been able to, certainly haven't been able to articulate it properly or unpack it fully or whatever. But what it led to was that I kind of feel that I would say, well, I've nothing really to say. Nothing that I want to say. And what I actually think I meant by that is there's nothing I want to say within this atmosphere, within this climate, within this contraction, within this kind of reality tunnel, this pendulum. And I noticed I've done this before. I did it with music, where I kind of felt that everything had become kind of pointless, and I'd said what I wanted to say and no one cared, and there was a huge contraction around kind of the scene I was in, the local scene or the different things. And it was like, in the end, I just kind of handed over music to other people. Right, I obviously am not to be involved in that. That's other people's thing. And I did it again with comics, where, you know, there was again a niche kind of tight, very few kind of opportunities. So anyone who had opportunities held on to them. A lot of gatekeeping, a lot of rules, a lot of contractions, a lot of it. There's a certain way to do things and you can't do them any other way. And conformity and cliques and all of this kind of stuff. To the end, I just went, I can't work within that. Or, you know, I when I finished them and no one cared, it was like, kind of, what's the point within working within this kind of paradigm, trying to express myself within this thing when it's clearly not what I want to be, you know. And that's where I am, I suppose. The spirituality thing is where I feel like I'm within this kind of circle of other people's, you know. It'd be very easy for me to kind of just go, right, here, you can have you have the spirituality, I'm away, and then, you know, come back like I did with all the other stuff with the music and the comics or whatever in a couple of years, but without having removed myself in a sense from that scene or that community. Like when I come back to the music, I didn't join a scene again. That, because I felt that was what the thing that was hindering me. That was the thing that was getting me down. That was the thing that was contracting. Same with the comics. When I started Turbine Syndrome again, I didn't get back in with the same kind of crowd, if you want. I felt at one stage, that's what you had to do. And so I could very easily just walk away from the spirituality stuff and not do any more videos and not feel I'm entitled to talk about it, or that it's pointless to talk about it, or that I have any sort of authority. I don't know, words fail me. So what I decided is I will talk about it. And talk about it from my point of view and be honest about it. And cause you can weaponize your spirituality and your beliefs and stuff like that. And I've noticed at times that I'm guilty of doing that, where, you adopt an approach or an outlook that's contrary to other people for that reason. That you only take the contrary approach just to be contrarian. It's like you see that an awful lot in conspiracy circles, where people will take the exact opposite approach to mainstream just because that's what you do. So yeah, I'll probably leave it there and see how this comes out. See if I put it up. If you're watching this, then I have put it up. It's helpful for me to try and get talking again, and that's the main thing of wanting to do a vlog, is to start talking again about this stuff and not allow myself to feel that I can't talk about this stuff because I'm slightly out of step or completely out of step with what I feel is the zeitgeist at the moment in magic, occult, spiritual circles. Certainly the ones I'm in, anyway. So, good people of the internet, until the next time, look forward to some more vlogs coming soon, or podcasts for you audio only people. And yeah, be well, and may your best days be ahead.